What is your very first memory? Picture it right now. The fading colors, the nostalgic feeling, the faces of the people around you. You are absolutely sure it happened exactly like that. But what if Neo told you today that your precious early memory might be a complete fabricated lie? Welcome to Mind Decoder. Today we are opening the dusty vault of your brain to uncover the shocking scientific truth about your childhood memories. Let us start with a strange phenomenon called infantile amnesia. Think about it. Most of us have almost zero real memories before the age of 3. Your brain was a sponge, learning to walk, talk, and understand the entire world. Yet the memory tape from those years is completely blank. Why? Did you just forget? Or is there a tiny memory thief hiding inside your head? To find out, let us look at how babies store information. When you were a toddler, your brain was in a massive construction phase. It was building new roads and bridges at an incredibly fast speed. Scientists Jocelyn and Franklin proposed a fascinating theory called Neurogenesis. It means your brain was generating brand new neurons so rapidly that it disrupted things. Imagine your early memory as a delicate drawing on a sandy beach. The rapid growth of new brain cells acts like a giant, rushing wave. As those new neurons multiply rapidly to help you learn complex life skills, they literally wash away the delicate traces of your earliest daily experiences. So your infant mind was not just failing to record, it was actively overwriting the old files to make room for a bigger, better system. But wait a minute. You might be thinking, Neo, I do remember my 3rd birthday party. I remember the exact shape of my cake. You can clearly see the flickering candles, hear your parents singing, and feel the pure excitement. How is that possible if the early files were overwritten? Here is the uncomfortable truth that psychology wants you to know. That vivid birthday memory in your head is likely not a real memory at all. Instead, your adult brain has done something incredibly clever and sneaky. It has transformed into a master film director, piecing together clues to build a convincing illusion. Think of your brain not as a perfect video camera, but as a highly creative video editor working with missing footage, trying to tell a cohesive story. Renowned psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving that human memory is not a recording we just play back. It is actually a complex reconstructive process. Every single time you bring up a distant childhood memory, your brain pulls it from the dusty shelf, takes it apart, and rebuilds it completely. But wait, if the original infant files were completely overwritten by Neurogenesis, where exactly does your brain's video editor get the material to build that scene? It desperately looks for external clues in your present life. A faded photograph hidden in a family album, or a funny story your mother often tells. Your brilliant adult brain takes those tiny external pieces, stitches them all together, and adds vivid colors and sounds to seamlessly fill in the missing gaps. So when you see that specific 3-year-old birthday cake in your mind, you are not actually remembering the event through your own tiny toddler eyes. Instead, you are simply remembering the photograph of the cake you saw when you were 10, perfectly mixed with the funny story your dad told. The internal video editor renders these pieces into a realistic 3D movie scene, drops you right in the middle, and labels it as absolute truth. This common phenomenon is known as false memory. It sounds a bit scary at first, but it is actually a completely normal part of being human. But why does a fabricated memory feel so undeniably real? Why do you feel the exact joy or embarrassment from a moment you simply constructed? The scientific secret lies in your emotions. When the brain reconstructs a past scene, it tightly attaches a strong emotional anchor to make it believable. While your hippocampus, the brain's save button, struggles with missing details, your amygdala, the emotion center, pumps the fabricated scene full of very real feelings. It is that raw, intense emotion that tricks you. If you feel it deeply, your logical mind assumes the visual details must be historically accurate. And this exact reconstructive mechanism becomes the ultimate psychological trap for anyone who tends to overthink. especially when you lie awake agonizing over past mistakes. You lie in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, replaying an incredibly awkward conversation you had 5 years ago over and over again. You are desperately searching the faded memory for missing clues. You just want to understand why you said that highly embarrassing thing back then. But please remember the golden rule of the inner video editor. It absolutely hates missing information, and it really hates unresolved intense emotions. So as you frantically search for specific visual details that have long faded away, your clever brain simply starts inventing completely new ones. It clearly looks at your current state of intense shame and decides the original past memory must have been a lot worse than it was. Suddenly, a harsh inner critic steps into the scene. It quietly whispers that not only did you say the wrong thing, but everyone was judging. You suddenly, quote-unquote, remember a subtle sneer on a friend's face. You clearly remember a heavy, awkward silence filling the entire crowded room. Psychology explains this through a dangerous mix of reconstructive memory and confirmation bias. You fully expect to find embarrassment, so you literally create it. Your brain edits the footage in real time. It artificially adds dramatic lighting, turns up the volume of the silence, and highlights your tiny mistake. The greatest tragedy of the chronic overthinker is exactly this. The harder you try to perfectly remember a painful detail, the less accurate it becomes. Every single time you drag that awkward moment out of the mental vault to overanalyze it, you accidentally scratch the disk and corrupt the file. You are definitely not looking at the original event anymore. You are looking at a messy photocopy, heavily drawn over with dark markers of shame. So that crushing guilt you feel at 3 in the morning? It is largely a physical reaction to a fictional horror movie your mind produced. You are essentially suffering deeply in the present moment for a social crime that your past self did not actually commit. At least not that badly. This psychological realization might feel completely terrifying at first, but at the exact same time, it can be an incredibly liberating and peaceful truth. If your memories are not objective truths, what are they? To truly understand this, we have to look closely at how the seeds of false memories are planted. Imagine you are sitting at a warm family dinner. Your mother tells a dramatic, funny story about the time you spilled juice everywhere at age 4. You listen to this story every single year. You do not actually remember the event yourself, but your brain's video editor is taking careful notes. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus famously called this the Misinformation Effect. External information given to you long after the event can completely alter or fabricate your memory. In one legendary psychology study, researchers managed to successfully plant a completely fake childhood memory of being lost in a shopping mall into adult participants. The researchers simply gave them a written story about getting lost and gently asked them to try extremely hard to remember the details of that day. Because they deeply trusted the source, their internal video editors went right to work. They searched for background mall visuals and stitched them with intense fear. Within just a few short days, a significant percentage of people suddenly had a vivid, detailed memory of a terrifying event that never actually happened directly. This completely proves that a memory does not need to be factually real to feel absolutely authentic. It just needs a convincing story and emotional weight. Family photographs act as even stronger seeds. When you look at an old childhood picture, your brain uses it as a highly detailed architectural blueprint. It takes the flat, two-dimensional vintage image and magically extrudes it into a fully immersive, three-dimensional mental environment for your mind to freely walk around inside. It paints the walls the exact same color as the photograph and simply guesses what the rest of the invisible room must have looked like backward. The more frequently you view the photo and hear the story, the more permanent and undeniably real the fabricated memory becomes in your mental library. So your mind is basically a beautiful scrapbook. It is a creative collage of real fragments, family tales, old pictures, and strong emotional assumptions. You are not a cold, objective computer hard drive flawlessly recording raw data. You are a living storyteller, and your past is your greatest narrative. So if your brain is constantly editing your past, you might feel a little lost right now. You might ask yourself, Who am I then? This brings us to a fascinating psychological concept known as the narrative self. It explains why your mind constantly insists on being a storyteller. Your brain does not just collect random daily events. It acts as a dedicated author, writing an ongoing biography where you are the main hero. To keep this complex life story cohesive, the brain has to constantly smooth out confusing edges and completely fill in all the missing chapters. It is not maliciously lying to you. It is simply trying its absolute best to give you a stable, unified sense of personal identity. Just imagine for a second if you actually remembered every single mundane detail and every tiny emotional pain with 100% perfect accuracy. Your poor mind would be completely paralyzed by an overwhelming tsunami of useless daily data and raw, unfiltered trauma hitting you all at once. The memory gaps, the fake details, and the heavy editing are actually your brain's clever evolutionary way of fiercely protecting your daily mental sanity. It neatly summarizes the heavy, chaotic past into a small, lightweight conceptual box, so you can easily carry it forward into your bright future. But here is exactly where the overthinker gets trapped. You accidentally forget that the inner story is just a rough summary, not a legal document. When you forcefully ruminate at 3 in the morning, you are treating a heavily edited rough draft like an absolute final and unchangeable verdict. You are allowing a scary psychological ghost from a partially fabricated past to totally dictate how you feel in the absolute safety of your present. What if you finally stopped fighting the anxious video editor inside and instead became the deeply compassionate, conscious director of your own beautiful mind? You cannot change the original raw visual footage of your life, but you absolutely have the immense power to change the voiceover playing on top. You can consciously choose what exact meaning and what specific emotion you want to lovingly attach to that old, dusty memory starting right today. But if you genuinely have the power to change the narrative, why does it feel completely impossible to stop the dark thoughts at 3 in the morning? To answer this, we must look at a fascinating brain system discovered by scientist Marcus Raichle. It is called the Default Mode Network, or simply DMN. The DMN is a widespread network of brain regions that suddenly lights up and becomes highly active exactly when you are resting or doing absolutely nothing. Think of the DMN as a heavy, unoptimized background application running constantly on your smartphone. It quietly drains your mental battery while you are unaware. When you lie in bed trying to sleep, this background app opens up and automatically starts pulling old, highly edited files from your deep memory vault. This repetitive mental process is called rumination. Researcher Susan Nolan Hoeksema found that chronic rumination is deeply connected to persistent feelings of severe anxiety and emotional pain. Rumination is essentially a frantic mental search loop that desperately looks for a perfect solution in the past, but sadly has no exit button programmed inside. The background app continuously feeds those dark, fabricated memories back into your emotional center, creating a completely exhausting and unbreakable cycle of pure, heavy mental fatigue. But here is the most surprising plot twist of all. The default mode network is not actively trying to torture you. It actually thinks it is helping. By constantly replaying past social mistakes and heavily exaggerating the embarrassment, your brain is actively running complex simulations to prepare you and prevent future dangers entirely. Biology has a very clear priority list. Your brain cares far more about keeping you safely alive than it cares about keeping you perfectly happy or peaceful. That is exactly why the internal video editor purposefully highlights the negative, scary details of a memory and quickly throws away the calm, boring, factual truths. It is a built-in survival mechanism from ancient times, trapped inside a modern world. So how exactly do you force quit this exhausting, battery-draining background application? You cannot simply delete the application, but you can absolutely step out of the dark theater. You can bravely call upon your powerful inner observer self. Instead of being the helpless actor drowning inside the painful memory, you calmly step back and watch the brain's chaotic movie safely playing on a distant screen. Once you step back into the observer self, You finally see the inner critic for what it truly is. Just a frightened, ancient protective mechanism. It is not a wise, all-knowing judge telling you the objective truth. It is just a panicked alarm bell trying to keep you safe from social rejection. When you realize this, you can look at that painful, highly exaggerated memory of your past self and finally choose a completely different emotional response. Instead of feeling crushing shame for what you said 5 years ago, you can choose to feel deep, gentle compassion for that younger version of you. Because that younger version of you did not have the wisdom you have today. They were simply doing their absolute best in a highly stressful moment. Your brain's video editor has spent years highlighting all of your flaws. What if you gently took the controls back and focused on your growth instead? You can actively instruct your mental editor to cut out the harsh self-judgment and softly zoom in on the valuable lessons you actually learned from it. When you do this, the heavy, dark memory physically changes inside your brain. The old neural pathways literally rewire themselves to completely reduce the emotional pain. Science calls this process memory reconsolidation. By safely recalling a memory while feeling calm compassion, you can permanently overwrite the painful emotional tag attached to it. The visual details might stay exactly the same, but the sharp sting of anxiety is permanently deleted and beautifully replaced with a sense of peaceful acceptance. This powerful realization means your past is not a heavy, solid stone monument that you are forced to carry forever. It is a living, breathing story. And since it is just a fluid story and you are the main author, you always have the absolute right to write a kinder, better ending. You can finally tell your brain that the danger is completely over. You survived that awkward social moment, and you are entirely safe right here, right now. So the next time you wake up at 3 in the morning and the scary memory theater starts playing, just smile gently at the glowing screen. Acknowledge the fear. Thank your anxious brain for trying so hard to protect you, and then peacefully decide to just turn the noisy projector off. The profound and liberating truth is, you are absolutely not defined by the messy, heavily fragmented, and often fabricated memories of your distant past. Those old dusty files are merely reference materials. They are definitely not a crystal ball predicting your future worth, your capabilities, or your character. So the very next time your brain's anxious video editor aggressively tries to force you to watch a terrifying horror movie at 3 in the morning, just politely remind yourself that it is a highly dramatized work of fiction, based loosely on a true story, but heavily edited by your current anxiety. You can finally give yourself permission to close your eyes, take a deep, calming breath, and let the anxious inner director rest for the night. Your incredibly brilliant brain works extremely hard all day to protect you. It truly deserves to stop running endless simulations of things that are permanently over. Please generously forgive your younger self for all those awkward, embarrassing moments. They were simply learning how to be a human being, just like you are today. Even if the original infant files were completely overwritten by new brain cells, the pure, untainted joy of those early days still lives quietly inside you. Your mind might certainly not be a perfect, objective video camera, but your wonderful heart still knows exactly how to feel genuine love and authentic connection. You always have the absolute power to edit your own ongoing story right now. Consciously make it a beautiful narrative of growth, resilience, and profound self-compassion. Thank you so much for joining me today on this deep dive into the fascinating, mysterious vault of human memory. You are safe, and your mind is beautiful. If you found this psychological journey helpful and comforting, please do not forget to gently press the like button to tell your digital algorithm you want more peace. Make sure to subscribe to the Mind Decoder channel to keep exploring the incredible, awe-inspiring science of your own brain alongside Neo every single week. Until next time, be very kind to your inner video editor. Take good care of your mental health, and remember to always write yourself a very happy ending. The information in this video is for educational purposes only and does not substitute professional psychological advice. If you are struggling mentally, please reach out to a qualified professional.